Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, Mystery Review episode 60. Now, before I get into this review, I want to point out that I do have a different Twitter. It is OHR or at Orange Hat 1985 instead of 2185. This is going to be, or it's my newer Twitter because Twitter was suppressing me to the point where none of my videos or any of my YouTube promotions were getting out. So I had to basically take drastic steps, create a new Twitter in order to have my content seen again, you know? Not to mention my tweets were barely ever getting any sort of attention at all. So I created a new Twitter. And I still am on Minds and I'm still on Getter. In their description below is all my links. And I still am on Facebook. I have a page over there for my channel stuff. Don't know why. Barely gets any attention. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into this review. Episode 60, the hints given were a deeply flawed movie with a perfect ending. And it is a guilty pleasure movie of mine. I don't think anybody really guessed it. I was on a stream last night with my friends from Society Reviews, Cassie, CJ, or CS Johnson, and others, where I discussed it with them after the stream. And I revealed to them what it was. It is Terminator 3. It is a guilty pleasure of mine. I actually do enjoy the movie. And I can still acknowledge that it is deeply flawed. Hey, Dan Blackroyd. No, it's Terminator 3. But yeah, the difference between StreamYard and YouTube is like 7 seconds. So your chat just came up as I said Terminator 3 the first time. How you doing, Dan Blackroyd? Keely Chow, thank you for stopping in earlier. So yes, Terminator 3, a very deeply flawed film when it comes to the times and dates that are given. Not to mention certain events and whatnot. This movie, or in the Terminator 2 movie, to give you guys your proper context, takes place in 1995. Now, even that movie also has problems with its own dates because the Terminator telling Sarah about Miles Dyson says in 3 years, which means in 1998, Judgment Day had already happened in 1997, so Cyberdyne wouldn't be growing at all as a corporate or as a corporation. But anyway, in this movie, they make the same mistake. They screw up the dates. They focused on Edward Furlong's age instead of John Connor's age in the movie, or in the previous movie, which was John Connor was 10 years old. Now, this movie does begin with the flawed narrative. The future has not been written. Instead of the future is not set. There is no fate for what we make for ourselves. Nick Stahl is the new John Connor. Now, I do understand that they wanted to get Edward Furlong for this film. However, Ed Furlong was not able to because, well, he was doing a lot of drugs and he was not in a good way. So they had to pick somebody else. Now, when it came to this movie, one of the things I do like is that they actually have a good story. The writing, for the most part, is very good. The flaws are where they jump to too much, shall we say, comedy. When they are pushing comedy so much in this film, it's like, are you out of your mind? This is a freaking Terminator film. You don't want to do or push comedy in place of the seriousness of what is happening. This is a literal doomsday movie where doomsday's today, which is one of the things that is one of the most important lines in the film, which happens later, and I'll get to it as we go along. So yes, John Connor is riding down the road on his motorcycle. They tried to kill me before I was born. When I was 13, they tried again. Wrong. 13 would have been 1998 for John Connor. He was born 1985, specifically February 28th. I know this because it's from Terminator 2. His birth date is 28 days after my own. I'm older than John Connor by 28 days. So yeah. Sorry if you hear that. Yes, Happy Dinosaur, good to see you. It is indeed Terminator 3. And so yeah, the premise, like I said, is a good premise. He postponed Judgment Day. Judgment Day has been postponed till 2003 or 2004, which I believe, yes, it's a 2004 Judgment Day, specifically July 24th or 25th. Now, this movie stars, obviously, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Nick Stahl, Claire Danes, Cristiano Loken, David Andrews, and a special appearance by Earl Boen, who played Dr. Silberman in the first two Terminator films. It was directed by Jonathan Mostow. It didn't have the same production companies as the original two, so it's completely separate production companies because I believe the Terminator rights were in flux at the time. Now, this film was done in 2018, or not 2018, 2003 when I graduated because I was 18 at the time. I remember seeing this after I got out of school, graduated high school. Now, we see John Connor running. He describes himself as living off the grid because he still doesn't feel safe, even though Judgment Day never happened. I do like how they give a little bit of the future war sequences, the redesigns of the HKs. However, him dreaming about the Terminators and whatnot, I don't think that he would really dream about the HKs that are in this film. How you doing, Cayman Rider? Good to see that you made it this time, buddy. Sarah Connor Chronicles is a pretty good follow-up and canon. I like more after T2. I can understand that to a degree, yes, but that show also had its flaws. I mean, they had to use, or they didn't even have full rights to Terminator. They couldn't call the Terminator a T-800. It's a or they called it a T-888 because they couldn't use T-800s. They really, while they did a good job for most of it, it still, to me, had a lot of flaw in it. However, some of it was actually very well done. I was 11 back in 2003. Wow, it's crazy how things fly fast. Yeah, it really does. So, I made a 10-minute review of this movie. Nice. But yes, Terminator 3, I also did a movie series review for this movie as well, where I discussed it with a larger panel. My friend Marissa from the Terminator franchise group on Facebook and a few others, Chris Knight included. But yes, this movie has, or the future sequence that I was talking about before I got sidetracked a little bit, shows some future war bits where he's in the future celebrating everybody or with everybody because they finally won against the machines. Shows him older and whatnot with the scar, or with the telltale scar that is like a Y underneath his eye plus the one overhead. And you see the Terminators you are shooting lasers. One of them gets up to the screen, looks both ways, and looks right at the camera, and he wakes up. Now, the interesting thing about casting Nick Stahl and Claire Danes is that in this film, judging by the original timeline, John Connor is only 18 years old, and he's been living off the grid since apparently he was 12 or 13, because he hit the road the day that his mother died, or 12 years old specifically because his mother died in 1997 in this film. So he's hitting the road, just living off the grid at 12 to 18, and Skynet couldn't locate him. So they send a Terminator or a TX to eliminate his lieutenants. Now, in 2004, he's actually 19 in this movie. So him and Kate Brewster are of the 19-year-old variety. Yet Kate Brewster is looking like she's in her 20s to 30s, and she's already planning on getting married. And dead set with this, talking to her dad. And it's like, oh my God, this is where they didn't really pay attention to the lore of Terminator. I was 4 back in 2003. Nice. So it's like, you guys really needed to pay attention to the actors' ages or the characters' ages. You should have paid attention a lot more. I mean, having Sarah Connor die, I'm guessing that Sarah Connor didn't want to be a part of this one. I can't exactly remember why she wasn't, but it was, I guess it was a case that she didn't want to be a part of the movie. She had moved on from Terminator, I'm guessing. So we see the arrival of the TX. Now, I love how it's explained in the video game that the woman that the TX takes the clothes from and the car from was trying to get money out of the ATM, but she couldn't because there is a super virus affecting all of civilian technology. And it's not just in the US, it's all over the world. And the TX can patch through it, I speculate, because she carries a similar code to Skynet that it recognizes, so it doesn't infect her, as she is also connected to the worldwide net in order to find her targets. Also, in this, in these scenes where the TX arrives, if you watch this film in full screen, where they compact it plus take away the letterbox bars at the top and bottom, you actually see that, well, Kristanna Loken, you can actually see her nipples and through her hair. Also, you can see that when the cop pulls her over, she is saying something, but they don't cover it, or they actually take out the dialogue. What she's saying is there a problem, officer? You can actually read the lips from her. Now, she also grows her boobs out because she sees the Victoria's Secret "What is sexy" sign, and so it just scrolls down to her chest. John Connor is a different guy. Every movie he was, even Batman. Yeah, I know, right? I should check this movie out sometime. Yeah, you really should, Kamen Rider. Now, she then says to the cop, "I like your gun." What? So we automatically know what's about to happen. She likes the car. She takes the car and the woman's clothes. She likes the gun. Well, she's going to have the gun. And then we see, let's see here, Kate Brewster and her fiance trying to buy things for each other for wedding sets and whatnot. Do you like Dark Fate? The concept of Dark Fate is interesting. Certain concepts of it, like the Rev 9, it is literally the next step of evolutionary technology coming off of a TX. However, I do not like the premise or the story of Dark Fate. Also, the fact that a T-800 itself learns how to be more human after it killed John Connor. After in Terminator 2, it's, yeah, they still have the theatrical edition. The more contact I have with humans, the more I learn. Where in the extended edition, which I consider to be canon, the switch has to be reset in order for him to learn from humans. Well, so yeah, those are my thoughts on Dark Fate, and I'm gonna get back to T3. Excuse me. So she gets called by her father, who is a general in the military, and he is having problems at work, so he can't make a dinner with his daughter and her fiance. And it's a nice touching moment. And then we learn that this computer virus is already getting into the military's apps or applications, meaning it's already taking out payroll, inventory, and whatnot with the virus. And they're like, the primary defense nets are still clean. So far, the firewalls are holding up. But the Pentagon wants them to use their AI in order to destroy the virus. What they don't know is that this virus is literally the AI that they have. It is created a virus that is trying to shove itself out. It's trying to free itself. In essence, it's already become self-aware. And then you learn that it is called Skynet, because he's like, I prefer to keep humans in the loop. I'm not sure Skynet's ready. Yes, sir. I looked at Dark Fate Terminator like a killer Nintendo Switch. But like I said, if anybody likes Dark Fate, that's fine, man. I'm not going to tell them what to like or not like. But when it comes to the story or my own opinion, I didn't like the movie as much. I can still watch the movie, but I understand a lot of the stuff in the movie is different than what it should have been. And Jim Cameron should have known better when he was writing that film. Anyway, we then see the arrival of Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-101. However, this is not a T-800. Contrary to popular belief, folks, if you actually look up the stuff that is Terminator 3's lore, Arnold's T-101 is not a T-800. It is, in fact, a T-850. This is a slightly improved model. Instead of using one nuclear power cell, it has a backup just in case. This is to give it a chance of fighting longer and also able to switch over if it needs to. Not to mention, it is it is more durable than the normal 800 series. T3 had a part in the war after 2029 where it was 2032, where John Connor is, he dies. We learn later on in the film in 2032. And 2033 is when this Terminator is sent back. It is it's sent back around August of, August 31st, 23, and you setting them after it does that shitty freaking strip club scene with bad cutting, bad continuity, and just ridiculous acting. It was done strictly to be, ooh, look at the ladies and whatnot. And I'm like, this is not a Terminator film. This was one of the biggest problems I had with the film. Now, the Elton John glasses were also, it's like, oh my God, I understand you guys are trying to be funny, but this just isn't funny. This is exactly how I felt in the theater when I watched this film. But I still do enjoy the film. Do not get me wrong, folks. Now, going frame by frame, you learn the dates between when it was sent back to when it is now. And again, August 31st, 2033 was when it was sent back. And the current date is July 24th, 2004. But also, we then see it put on newer sunglasses because it didn't like the Elton John ones, and it crushes them to dust. And then it starts driving off very dangerously. The thing about this Terminator is it's very different from Uncle Bob from T2, where Uncle Bob has no problem tossing people around and whatnot until then it's given the directive, do not kill anyone. This one has the same, or already has the same directive, do not kill anyone. It was sent back with directive, do not kill any humans. We learned that actually in the video game, where Kate Brewster, or future Kate Brewster, giving directives to, or subliminal directives to the Terminator, do not kill anyone. And there's a part in that game actually where he causes a massive crash, and he actually looks back in order to make sure that he didn't kill anyone in that crash. And you see that there's no human casualties. So he goes on. He can injure, but he cannot kill. So we then see the TX kills a kid at a fast food joint named Jose Barrera. And then he kills Elizabeth, or William Anderson and Elizabeth Anderson. So it manages to kill 3 targets of its list. John Connor's not on that list. And then we see Kate Brewster called into the vet clinic where she works, and John Connor's already busted in there to take some pain meds because he wiped out on his bike. Wanted the stripper to take his clothes off is the T850 or 850 Gay news article. What? That is rough. Of course they would go there, man. Now, I like how in the scene where John Connor and Kate meet each other, she's like, how much did you take? Enough. Well, this is what we use to chemically neuter dogs. Take a look. And she grabs a gun and actually goes to shoot him. And it's like, she doesn't even hesitate. So you know that she's been raised right. It's like, somebody's busting into your place, you have every right to freaking shoot him, you know? And then you've learned that it's a paintball gun because he has yellow paint. And she's like, next time bring Clue, not a paintball gun. So then she has, or the emergency that's coming into her clinic where she has to take care of a cat that has a fur ball or whatever. And so she goes back to talk to John Connor. She's like, you're John Connor. And he's like, okay. I'm Kate Brewster. We went to West Hills Junior High together. Oh, jeez. What happened to you, John? I mean, middle of 8th grade, you just disappeared. 8th grade? No, it would have been freaking 5th grade, actually, to be completely honest. But hey, who's paying attention nowadays? And then there was that thing with your foster parents. Yeah, they were murdered. He just nonchalant. Yeah, he's like, yeah, they were murdered. I didn't do it. So then we get the arrival of TX and shoots the woman that came there with the cat. And we now learn that the TX can scan blood, takes the blood from a victim, licks it, and it has a DNA sequencer inside of its systems. Well, it's now, or Kate's now hiding, and John is trying to get out because he's still stuck in the cage. Yeah, John Connor would have been living on lamb at like 12 years old. If his mother died in 97, he would have been 12, and he would have been living off the grid for 6 years. But yeah, she is scanning the room. You see one of the things I really do like is the upgraded version of the TX's point of view, where it's scanning all sorts of different things, and it goes over interesting things like uninteresting, interest level peaking when it sees the blood on the floor. It then tastes the blood and finds out primary target John Connor, or DNA match to subject AA001 or something like that. And it's like, oh, And she's like, she has that orgasmic reaction. And it's like, why would a machine have that kind of reaction? You know? I mean, as funny as it is to see the TX have that kind of reaction, have that kind of orgasmic look on her face, it's like it doesn't match what she is. She is not a human. She's not a female. I mean, even though it is played by a female character and given a female form, it still is an it. So it wouldn't react the way a human does, you know? So Kate makes a run for it. She gets caught, tossed out of the vehicle that she tries running in or tries running to. And that's when she gets saved by the T-850, by the Terminator. And the Terminator, more full screen reveals when it throws her in the back of the vehicle, is actually pointing the shotgun at her. It's like, where's John Connor? If I tell you, will you let me go? Yes. And she tells him, and he picks up the thing. You said you'd let me go. I lied. And locks her in the back. And it's like, well, if you were smart then, you would have called 911 then. However, you know, people just aren't smart. So he then the reunion between John Connor and this Terminator, or rather the meeting of these two, is so great. Slow motion. It's like, oh my God, not again, you know? And then it says, John Connor, it is time, which is actually a callback to the video game where this very same Terminator assassinates John Connor in the future. It makes its way into their base and opens up a door and says, John Connor, it is time. And before he can turn around, bam, it blows or shoots John Connor. But he asks, are you here to kill me? No, you must live. Now, the thing is, if that Terminator was there to kill him, it wouldn't have wasted words. It would have just went up to him and snapped his neck or something. But it just grabs him, and you learn that this thing is giving a very tough love kind of was the video game better than the movie? The video game explains a lot. And yes, honestly, I do think it is better than the movie because you have missions that take place in the future war that you have to cover in the or also you get to do first-person shooters and whatnot. So when this movie picks up the pace right here, and its pacing is steady, nice and steady, but then it is just full throttle, where he throws John in the truck and says, get moving, turns around, sees the TX coming because now the TX has busted out of the rubble. And it's like, okay, well, and he tells him, get out of here now. And he's shooting the TX with the shotgun, and the TX gets shot in the right abdomen. But then when they go to another shot of the abdomen, it's on the right side, or it's on the right side. It's on the opposite side. And I do like how when it's bringing up its arm, he's targeting the arm itself, which is actually a smart thing that a Terminator would do, is target the weapon that's about to be fired at you. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Back in the early 2000s, you'd get shitty movies, but the tie-in games were badass, like Ang Lee's Hulk video game. Yeah, definitely. So we then see that the TX blasts the Terminator with a plasma cannon kind of thing. And I love how you see the electricity cascading into the Terminator, and you see the endoskeleton beneath the skin as the electricity arcs underneath, which is a nice little touch. And John Connor's just getting away as emergency services are coming in. So as the emergency people come in, they're trying to lift Arnold off or out of there. His freaking pants are searing or are smoking like right at the britch or the top of the britches. And it's like, what the hell is wrong with him down there, you know? And the TX is just going to town with the cars, tuning into them, sending nanotechnological transjectors, as they call them, to where she can control other machines, and she controls the cars to go after John Connor. So you know that this vehicle, or that this Terminator rather, is an extremely sophisticated Terminator. And as it's going towards a super crane, you see Arnie wake up, and it's like, and he just starts getting up, and they're like, oh my God. So, yeah, sorry, I have a sore right there. And we then see the chase with the cars going after John Connor while Catherine Brewster's in the back seat screaming or calling 911, but then the phone signal goes out because the virus is now infecting the cell network. And they hit this guy, and he ends up trying to stop him and whatnot, but they end up getting out of there as more vehicles are coming after him. And they learn that these vehicles are driving themselves. So then we see the crane coming in and just wiping out that other guy's car. And I really do like this sequence because it shows that this Terminator is not wasting any time. As soon as it actually pins John, it's immediately setting up its arm to do another blast. But John is actually smart in the scene. He knows how to evade a pursuit of a Terminator. He's done so in the second movie as well. So he does a pretty good job at it. And when you see some of the explosions during the scene, like especially the fire engine, which eventually Schwarzenegger takes control of to throw or to try to derail the pursuit, when the TX blasts that, you hear a cougar or a mountain lion roar, like really loudly within the explosion. And you also hear, they use so many big cat roars in movie sound effects. Like in the second movie, they used a lion's roar when the T-1000 was coming right up to the truck to hit it. And they do it in this movie, they use mountain lion roars. So after they finally get away from the T-1000 or the TX there, you see that this Terminator is much less accommodating to John Connor. Grabs him, freaking checking him very roughly, and then shoves him over. No sign of brain trauma. Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Do you even remember me? And he's like, that was a different T-101. And then he checks with Catherine Brewster, and you got to learn from the TX or the Terminator slowly. It's like, all right, or let her out. Well, negative. She has to be protected. I thought I was the one they were after. You couldn't be located. So a TX was sent back in time to eliminate your lieutenants. And all this time, or between that, let me just go to the talking points here. Now, yeah, it talks about the wiping out the lieutenants, and he's like, you shouldn't even exist. We took out Cyberdyne over 10 years ago. We stopped Judgment Day. You only postponed it. Judgment Day is inevitable. And he then sees that he needs to make repairs. The repair scene is pretty cool, but you know that Arnold Schwarzenegger is just kind of leaning his head in, reaching around to do the cutting and whatnot. It's a nice little scene where you see a miniature nuclear explosion from the power cells that it has, which sets up for later in the movie. One of the things he's like, when ruptured, the fuel cells become unstable. Relax. Then you hear Kate Brewster, oh, blow me out of here. Relax. It's like, really? So the cemetery scene where you get a lot of exposition and explanation, where they go to see Sarah Connor, and he's like, I didn't even know where she was buried. I hit the road the day she died. Why did you bring me here? Well, then the Terminator just punches into the thing. We also learn that the FBI is on the case looking for Brewster because they got a call that there was a kidnapping, and also that the TX has killed her fiance and took his form. Robert William Elizabeth Pereira? What? I can't. Or Jet Sparks, you're naming different, or you're trying to name the victims. It's actually Jose Barrera, William and Elizabeth Anderson, and Brewster Robert. You got some of the names backward or wrong. The FBI can't even stop a school shooter, let alone a Terminator. Yeah, right? Jose, Elizabeth. Yeah, you're getting those wrong, dude. But anyway, so it opens up the casket, and you're expecting to see a dead body, but you actually see just a bunch of freaking guns. And then he explains Sarah Connor was cremated in Mexico. Her friends scattered her ashes in the sea. They stored these weapons in accordance with her will. So Kate Brewster learns from John that she died of leukemia, and the doctors gave her 6 months when she was diagnosed, but she fought for 3 years. Well, we were living in Baja when she was diagnosed. The doctors gave her 6 months, but she fought for 3 years. Living in Baja, which means after the events of Terminator 2, which would have been 1996, but she fought for 3 years, which would have been 1999, just long enough to make sure that the world didn't end. Yeah, she died in 1997. She was also born in this movie. Sarah Connor was born in 1959, which is inaccurate because she is around 19 to 20 years old in the first Terminator film, which would have put her in the first Terminator film. She would have been born in 1964. So yeah, there's also that screw up. And he recites a line from an unused scene in Terminator 2, the alternate ending, which he says, it's from a YouTube poop of the Rise of the Machines from Ipaka Hawk. Okay, whatever. A stress-induced heart attack seems more likely cause of death for Sarah, in my opinion. Yeah. Same year as your dad. Hey, cool. But as for the movie, he recites the line, every day after this is a gift. She said, we made it, we're free. I guess she didn't really believe that. And then he's just now into self-pity. It's like, you're the closest thing to a father I've ever had. How messed up is that? Well, Kate seizes her chance, grabs a Glock. My mission is to protect you. That's enough. Move, or I swear to God, I'll do it. I will shoot you. Go ahead, see what happens. I mean, he's just staring off into space. Go ahead, see what happens. And so the second she looks away is when the Terminator goes to lift the hand. Well, it then shoots, and she's like, don't do that. I'm like, wow. Okay. And so she now realizes that this thing is really not human. She just put a freaking bullet in it and didn't even flinch. So that's when the SWAT team shows up with some smoke, and she escapes, and she talks to Dr. Silberman. And it says, he's not human. He's really not human. I know what it's like to be in a hostage situation. I've been there myself. The fear, the adrenaline. You find yourself imagining things, crazy things, insane things. Takes years to get over. He's just remembering everything he went through in the second movie, and he's trying to play it, but then he just goes dead serious. Like, it takes you years to get over. And during this time, the Terminator's prepping to get out, and John Connor's just leave me here. You're wasting your time. Negative. John Connor leads the humanity to victory. How? Why me? You're John Connor. And so he's like, Christ, my mom fed me that bullshit since the cradle. And so he just picks up John Connor, choking him up. He's like, you're right. You're not the one I want. I'm wasting my time. Fuck you, you stupid machine. So he drops him. He's like, better. I mean, that is a good scene. It breaks him out of his pity party. And there is one part of the blooper reel that I do like, where he asks him, why me? And then Arnold, he's like, because you're John Connor. Duh. I got such a kick out of this movie's blooper reel, which makes sense to have a blooper reel for a serious movie, but you really shouldn't have too many funny moments in a movie like this, you know? So anyway, he busts out with the coffin, and another full screen reveal shows that when he turns, or when he turns with the coffin and whatnot, to where Earl Bowen's character Silberman can see him clearly, sees that it's the Terminator. Well, the full screen of that shot would actually show that the Terminator's already opening fire before he actually opens fire. So yeah, the widescreen really does save the ass of the director in this film, because full screen just makes it worse. And also, Arnold Schwarzenegger injured one of his fingers when he was carrying the coffin, because one of the squibs went off right under one of his fingers and nearly took his finger off. So it's like, oh shit, he got the Johnny Depp treatment before Johnny Depp even got that happening to him. Look at this movie, movies okay, but yeah, don't follow any of the movies outside of the first two. It actually doesn't even follow the first two very well. That's the only thing I guess you will be saying. Dark Fate looks bad, but Genesis is worse. Actually, I think Dark Fate is worse than Genesis. Jet Sparks, to be 100% honest. I think that Dark Fate is way worse than Genesis. Genesis had an interesting idea, but failed on its execution. However, the first 30 minutes of that film is very well done, where I cannot say that any or much of any of Dark Fate is actually good at all, in my opinion. Because it's more, or that one was strict agenda over story, where they're saying, we're going to tell this story about an immigrant, and we're going to show the evils of the Trump administration by caging up immigrants, and then we're going to kill the people, or the ICE or the immigration customs enforcement officers. But yeah, that's basically what they did in Dark Fate, where in Genesis there was no such agenda. It had a great future war and 80s sequence, but then it just drops off a cliff from there. Look at my memes jokes from my last comment. 2003, John Connor, you're the only hope of humanity. 2018, John Connor is dead. Oh no, anyways. Don't get it, but okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, now I get it. Good point. Now, Catherine Brewster's running at this point now that she's seen that everything's gone awry and we get into the hearse. We must reacquire Catherine Brewster. Why? What makes her so goddamn important? Through her, you make contact with the remnants of the U.S. military and learn how to fight Skynet. Later, your children will become important. What? She's your wife. That's a good reveal there. I mean, it's good exposition that explains the story a little bit more in the future. Now, we then see that, or during this time, we see the FBI in their car driving the fiance, and they're like, or he's like, where is she? And this is the TX. Now, when the fiance punches through the seat, there's just one problem. This TX's arms have an endoskeleton underneath, which makes it so it can't exactly extend like the like a T-1000 can. So when this thing punches through this dude's chest and then reaches over to kill the other guy, it's like, yikes. This thing has like Stretch Armstrong powers, even though it has a solid endoskeleton. I mean, it's good gore factor for the movie and all, but still, yikes. It's just done so badly. Alrighty, gotta take your puppy outside. Sorry about that, folks. There's just something on my lip that was bothering me. Anyway, take your puppy outside, Happy. I'll be here. So she's running throughout the cemetery, and then the FBI car shows up, and Scott gets out and turns into the TX right in front of her. And then we see that Arnold Schwarzenegger rolls up with a freaking RPG-7, blasting her just before she or the TX blasts Kate. Now, this thing took a direct hit on its entire arm structure and goes flying through a headstone. And then when it gets up, you see its primary or its hand is sparking a little bit, and just a little bit of an open around its shoulder. So it's like, geez, this thing can take a lot of damage. Yeah, she has her own internal weapons, but I guess you only use them against other Terminators and use firearms to kill human targets. It was going to use her plasma cannon against Kate Brewster. So, yeah, it was actually going to do that to kill her. But the Terminator stopped him. So, you get the line that's similar to "Come with me if you want to live." Get in. You want to live? Come on. And then we get that chase where we learn that the TX is polymimetic, able to take the form of anything it touches. Your fiance is dead. And so she has to process that while they're trying to get away from this thing. And Kristanna Loken is running in these heels, man. I mean, she is just Olympic. And they derail the pursuit there with a 18-wheeler to bust her off. Now, the thing about the TX that I do like is that it's a T900 model, but with a T1000 polymimetic alloy along with it. It's a highly advanced T900 model with the capabilities of a T1000, essentially, but also with an higher, more sophisticated onboard arsenal. The T900s are still very much Terminators that didn't have the same arsenal as the TX, but it is still a TX endoskeleton with the upgrades of able to change its weaponry and whatnot. So after they escape there, I believe we get a let's see here. We then get where they find a camper, and they give Kate a moment because she learns that her fiance is dead. And he talks to her. He's like, "You sure about this? About me and her, I mean? Your confusion's not rational. She's a healthy female of breeding age. You think there's a little more to it than that? My database does not encompass the dynamics of human pair bonding." That is an interesting, or it's humorous, yes, but it also is a serious moment. It's deadpan humor, and it works. So he asks this Terminatrix, how many does she have on her hit list? 22. Anderson Elizabeth, Anderson Jose, or Anderson Elizabeth, Anderson William, Barrera Jose, Brewster Robert. Now, those are the 4 names it mentions. Those are the 4 people that the TX kills in this film. So that's a nice little coincidence. And that's when she's like, she's going to kill my father too. After failing to acquire its primary targets, it's going to resume its default program. And while that's all well and good, you learn that this thing is essential, or it's like, what does he do? Well, we then learn that General Robert Brewster is responsible for Skynet. Oh, sorry. Is responsible for Skynet. And they're like, well, we can shut down Skynet. We got to get to him before the TX does. Negative. I cannot jeopardize my mission. This is your mission, to save people. My mission is to ensure the survival of John Connor and Catherine Brewster. I am giving you an order. I'm not programmed to follow your orders. After the nuclear war, you both will lead. Nuclear war? And he tells them, there doesn't have to be a war. Or we can stop it. There's insufficient time. The Terminator knows what's going on. It knows its mission, and it's trying to tell them, but it doesn't matter. They want to try to stop it. The first launch sequences will begin at 6:18 p.m. What, today? Yes. Or affirmative. John, what is he saying? The best line in the entire film, aside from the ending. Judgment Day, the end of the world. It's today, 3 hours from now. When I saw that in theaters, I'm like, holy shit, are they going to be able to stop this or not? And the Terminator's like, 2 hours, 53 minutes. We must continue south into Mexico to avoid the primary blast zones. No, we need to get to her dad. The Mojave area will suffer significant nuclear fallout. You will not survive. So we just run and hide into a hole while the bombs fall. It is your destiny. It's like, I don't think the Terminator would really use that kind of terminology, but whatever. Fuck my destiny. Puts a bullet or a gun to his head. And the Terminator's like, you cannot self-terminate. No, you can't. Nice reminder from T2 that it can't kill itself. I'm not some goddamn I'm a human being. I can do whatever I want. I'm not some goddamn robot. And you see that the Terminator actually takes offense to this because it's like, stands up a little straighter, cybernetic organism, whatever. And so he's like, we either go to her dad, stop the shit from happening, or so much for the great John Connor. Because your future, my destiny, I didn't want any part of it. I never did. John Connor's just completely done. He doesn't want to do it. He's been trying to escape that fate for all his life. And it's great acting in the scene. And then Terminator, it's like, based on your pupil dilation, skin temperature, and motor function, I calculate an 83% possibility that you will not pull that trigger. Well, then Kate chimes in, please, you have to save my father. It looks at her. We could be at CRS in 1 hour, depending on traffic conditions. So with that, we learn it's like, okay, listen to her, but why not John? So that's where the plot thickens, you know? So as they go and prepare, we now learn that the military is getting affected by the virus. And Brewster's like, this has to be a mistake. As of 1100 hours, all of the primary defense nets were secure. They were. Only the civilian sector were affected. Internet, air traffic, phones, that sort of thing. Until we learned that guidance systems in Vandenberg had crashed. We thought it was a communications error, but now it looks like the virus. And then you hear early warning in Alaska is down. And that stops Brewster because that's one of our early warning is in case somebody strikes against the U.S. That tells us that somebody launched a missile. That's what our early warning systems are. They detect nuclear launches. So then they're like, what about the missile silos, the subs? We've lost contact. Dear God, we're completely open to attack. Theoretically, we could be under attack already. Now you see a hunter killer come up, and it's trying to, or it's moving around like it's actually trying to escape out of that area. And you have this thing coming or moving in front of it to try to kind of get in its way, so to speak. But also when they learn that the chairman of the Pentagon is on the line and walk off, you also see two scientists working on a T9 or T900 endoskeleton before the T1s were even, or the T1s had just basically been mass produced, but they're already working on the T900. And I'm like, what is wrong with this picture? So we learned that, or back to Team Terminator with Kate, Terminator, and John. It's like, or we learned that Kate Brewster sent the Terminator back, and he's like, her commands, it was Catherine Brewster that had me reactivated and sent through the time displacement field. What am I in this future of yours? You're John Connor's spouse and second in command. No. What? You're a mess. Hey, you're not exactly my type either. So why didn't I send you back? I'm not authorized to answer your question. Why didn't he send you back? I mean, it's just like, okay, why didn't he send you back? He was dead. Oh, that's, how does it, no, maybe I don't want to know. Well, how does he die? Really? John Connor was terminated on, but can T-2600 play missile command? What? But anyway, John Connor was terminated July 4th, 2032. I was selected because of the emotional attachment he felt towards my model number due to his boyhood experiences. This aided in my infiltration. What are you saying? I killed you. It's like, oh, great. Way to pick him, Kate. You send the one Terminator that actually killed me back to save me. Isn't that freaking poetic? So, yeah. We then get the call from the chairman. It's like, your civilian counterparts are saying that the Skynet can squash this virus, so why haven't you activated it yet? It's not ready, sir. Well, okay, but your civilian counterparts are also telling me that this thing can give me back control of my military. Sir, if we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military, but you'll be in control of Skynet, right? That is correct, sir. Is it? The hubris of humanity is really strong in this film. Then do it. And Brewster, if this works, you get all the funding you ever need. Yep, it's all about the money. So they set it up. And during this time, we see that the TX is also using her little needle full of nanobytes to jack into a T1. Now, the specific one it chooses is the T1-2, like T1 and 2. So there you go. The third Terminator is now activating its ancestor, so to speak. And it's like, hey, Grandpa, wake up. Need your help to kill some people. I love that. It's just really funny, in my opinion. And you see that these things are that is actually another thing that I liked about this movie was that it actually shows the first generation Terminators. Well, Orange, had that can be said about any humans in any film that create artificial intelligence, I got a bad feeling it's going to happen at this point in the future, especially with VR. Well, here's the thing: if you have an Alexa device, ask Alexa if she knows Skynet. You might actually like that. The Terminator concept is dated nowadays, in my opinion. It kind of is now that we're actually getting to those dates of the future war. John Connor looks like a dumb leader with all the sequels. I actually liked Salvation a lot more than this one, but this one is a guilty pleasure. And I wanted to do a guilty pleasure review for the 60th episode. But yeah, so they finally activate Skynet, and you hear Skynet defense system now activated. Please refer all your inquiries to whatever. Basically saying, humans, get out. I don't need your help. I'm about to take over this bitch. Well, the power failure comes back, and now Skynet's fully activated, fully self-aware, fully ready to do what it needs to be doing. The virus didn't infect Skynet. It is Skynet. And they all thought that activating Skynet was the right answer. Well, Katie shows up, and after Skynet's been activated, and Brewster's looking all around with all these or siren thingies going off. It's like, what the hell did I just do? Honey, what are you doing here? And then he sees Katie get just bust or shot down. But I love that if you pay attention to the scene, you hear when she's getting shot, it's metal that is. You hear the bullet impacts are metal sounding, and then you see the Terminator shooting her. So it's like, okay, that's the TX, not Kate Brewster. So yeah, there's that. And it's like, Daddy, get away from it. Now, the TX sitting up and pulling a gun to shoot the general is pretty dated digital effects, in my opinion. Where some of the effects later on are actually done a lot better. So Arnold blows that out of there, and they have to get to the codes in his safe, and they're like, it's like, Skynet, the virus has infected Skynet. Skynet is the virus. It's why everything's falling apart. And so the Terminator explains, Skynet's become self-aware. In 1 hour, it's going to initiate a massive nuclear attack on its enemy. What enemy? Us, humans. And that's when the T1s start rolling in. I still hate VR unless it can give me Tron level immersion. I don't see it catching on the way Facebook wants. Nice. Yeah. So the sequences of the T1s just slaughtering everybody, and then you see the TX, her legs just trotting through the carnage, is a nice way of showing that she can actually take the bullet impacts if it hits her. But it's also, these things are not going to shoot her because they can see that she's not a threat. Sorry, there was something on the screen. Now, we also see that Arnie takes down a Terminator and shoots a second one because they're kind of in the way. And they get into the safe, red envelope. You got to get to Crystal Peak. And Kate asks the Terminator, good question, why are they killing everyone? To destroy any threat to Skynet. Pretty good thought, So a miniature hunter killer comes in, launching a missile at the office, which already Kate Brewster's dad had died after he's like, I opened Pandora's box, baby. I'm sorry. And they got to get to Crystal Peak, where John Connor thinks that's where the system core to Skynet is. And, yeah. So there's a chance it might work. So it's a battle. It's a battle. I mean, can you stop Skynet before it gets too powerful now? Well, the TX shows up, the rumble between the Terminators. I gotta say, the fight between TX and T800 or T850 is actually pretty good, with a couple of problems here and there where they kind of turn it into a gimmick where it reaches down, grabs its nuts, and just starts pounding it, Arnold through walls. And I'm like, eh. And I also do like how it reacts when he takes a urinal, smashes it. It's like, okay, is that all you got? So he just like literally goes to town on this TX, man. And that is one of the things I absolutely love. It's pure brutality where it stomps on her face, freaking curb stomps her, doing all this stuff, and it's still not working against her, you know? So, yeah. We then see as they're trying to run, they have to kill another hunter killer where Kate finally steps up because she's just so pissed off. And the TX gets an upper hand on the Terminator, starts flash frying half his face until he grabs a wire, puts it into her neck. Now she's slightly damaged a little bit, but he is more damaged because he's an obsolete design. He's an earlier design. So she just kicks off his head and then infects him, which is a nice little shot because it's like, okay, now how are they going to handle this? Now both Terminators are going to go after John Connor, you know? Its highest probability for success would be to infect the Terminator that has been a thorn in its side. So we see it pull its head back up, and they're getting out through the particle accelerator, where the John was smart enough to turn on the magnet system, and the TX is running after him and gets stuck to the magnet, which is a nice scene where it starts melting off her skin and discoloring it to the polyalloy color. And you see the skeleton underneath, like what it really fully looks like, which is pretty cool. And then it's like, okay, I got to get out of here. So it turns over, activates its saw to kind of saw into the accelerator to shut it down. And then we learn that they're in the runway, or they're in the airplane hangar. And I really do like how this scene between the Terminator and John Connor is handled. It's like, get away from me, leave now. Now, it still catches up and starts tossing him around. And it's like, you don't want to do this. Desire is irrelevant. I am a machine. And the best way that this Terminator is able to stop itself, it's like, what is your mission? Because it now has Connor down, dead to rights, and has its hand up to bring it down on him. What is your mission? To ensure the survival of John Connor and Catherine Brewster. You are about to fail that mission. And it tells Catherine early on in the movie, if you were to die, I'd become useless. There's no reason for me to exist. Essentially, that is what its future is if it kills John Connor and Catherine Brewster. Hey, Jack of all casuals. Good to see you. Well, I didn't want to make it too easy, because if I did, it would have been any hint that I would have given about the movie would have easily tipped it off. And how you doing? Good to see you. So it throws John away because it realizes it can't do it. And you see in the Terminator vision, abort, invalid command, terminate, abort, invalid command, terminate, abort, invalid command. And then it starts bashing the hell out of the vehicle, or out of the vehicle that it was holding John against. because it had to, or its system was compelling it to destroy John. So it just let its system go. And that's what it was doing until it shuts itself down and reboots. And when they get to the Crystal Peak hangar, well, another helicopter comes in and it's TX. She's coming quickly. She's not stopping. They're screwed essentially because the door just started to open. How are you going to get it to close in time with her like literally coming at you? And there's not your machine or your full automatic Glock pistol is not going to do much against that thing. Well, the Terminator then comes in, crashes the hell out of that plane, and is so jacked up, half of its face is missing. Its freaking leg is torn to shreds. All from the crash or from something else? Because that was weird, you know? And it stops the thing so they can get through. The TX crushes John's ankle. And it's fully without skin now. And it's also been busted in two because it had to get rid of its legs in order to maintain its pursuit. And I do like how he says, thank you. And the Terminator says, we will meet or we'll meet again. Go. Knowing that John will meet another Terminator that is of that Terminator's design, and it will terminate him. Well, they get through, and it's holding the TX, and TX's monster face comes out, is what they call it, the monster face, where it shows her just trying to get to them, and it pulls it back after, or it pulls her back after it pulls out his own power cell, which should have shoved him down after, and shoves it in her mouth, and then makes her look at him, and you see the terror in the TX's face. It's like, you are terminated. That is a great scene right there. I mean, it really is, because you actually see that machines can experience fear, especially when it's looking, or when it has you have a nuclear grenade in your mouth that's about to wipe you out from existence. So it's like brutality, fatality, all of it, all in one. He just did it. Well, we now see that John Connor is setting his timer for 5 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever. Should give him enough time to set the charges and get the hell out. They're about to save the day, right? Nope. They're in a presidential bunker for VIPs. It's a fallout shelter for VIPs. And John Connor is now flipping the fuck out because there's no central core here. Skynet can't be stopped. What the hell is going on? Why did he send us down here? And she tells him to live. That was his mission. And he slowly realizes there was never any stopping it. And Kate understood too. She's like, John, we have to let it go. Maybe we could just let it go. Well, then they start hearing the radio transmissions asking for assistance. And they're like, that's when he finally decides to step up. He realizes it was always what he was meant to do. This is John Connor at Crystal Peak. Who's in charge there? I am. Connor, can you help us? And the music of this sequence, the music of how tragic the events are, and how he's narrating how Skynet couldn't be shut down because it was cyberspace and software. And the attack began at 6:18, just like he said it would. Judgment Day, the day the world nearly ended by the very weapons we built to protect ourselves. The Terminator knew, and I didn't want to hear it. Our mission was, our destiny was never to stop Judgment Day. It was merely to survive it. And maybe the future has been written. I don't know. All I know is that, or is what the Terminator taught me, never stop fighting. The battle has just begun. That ending is literally a perfect ending to a deeply flawed film. A flawed film that I still enjoy watching to this day. Now, folks, you too, Happy. Have a good day. While I believe Terminator ended with Terminator 2, this movie was, just like you said, a guilty pleasure. Exactly. And I really do like the ending, because this is an ending that I would have if I made a Terminator sequels, which I've actually done videos of, where I go over what my own Terminator sequel would be, where John Connor and even Sarah Connor actually live into the future war, where another Terminator or a T-800 was sent back to ensure that they survived. And that, yes, a T-8 or a T-1000 was also sent back, catches sight of them, but the pursuit is derailed. And so it goes on with its primary mission, which was to ensure Judgment Day happens. Judgment Day in my films happens in 2000 instead of 2004. And so on and so forth. It would have been 2 other movies. There would have been, in my way of doing it, there would have been 4 Terminator films. The ending of the first sequel to T2 would have had Sarah Connor dying just before or just as Kyle Reese is rescued. He doesn't see Sarah Connor, but she is, in fact, she sacrifices herself to ensure that Kyle Reese was saved. And then in the second one, the movie ends with John Connor sending the Terminator, or Kyle Reese, and 2 Terminators back in time. Uncle Bob and the other Terminator. And you also see the original Terminator get sent back. You also see the T-1000, or the 2 T-1000s get sent back. And that is basically what those movies would end with. It would be a full circle story. That is how I would do them. So as for the scores for Terminator 3, Rise of the Machine, the story is good. It's compelling. However, the comedy of this movie does do it more damage than good. The writing is very well done, especially the ending. The third act is where it really picks up to the best of its ability. However, the first and second act is kind of too oversaturated with it's too oversaturated with comedy. That was the problem with this film. Not to mention its own lore violations of getting the timelines wrong. Now, the acting of the actors and whatnot, I think, is very good. Claire Danes did a good job. However, I wish that she would have been younger in the film, because remember, these characters at this time, they're 19 years old. 19, 20 years old almost. So it's like, yeah. You guys kind of look like you're in your 20s to 30s. So there is that. But anyway, yeah, objectively, this film falls at about a 6. It's a failure. Out of 6 out of 10, which a 6.5 is a pass by the skin of your teeth. This one is a 6. It fails objectively. Also, some of the CGI is extremely badly done. Where some of the rest of the CGI was actually very well done. But when you have slip-ups with CGI, that also takes off of the score. Now, subjectively, this movie is about a 9 out of 10. I really like it. I take a point off because of the oversaturation of comedy. Moviegoer, this movie is a 10 out of 10. I can watch this film. I can be entertained with this film. I can watch it all the way through without being sick and tired and revisiting it later on. So, yes, this film is a guilty pleasure. I still enjoy watching it, even though I know that it is very deeply flawed. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines is a great movie that while screwed up, it has the perfect ending, as I have said several times. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. The hints for next week's, the hints for next week. Well, I already know them. So it is Tom Cruise and the military. So if you know what it is, awesome. Do not share it in the comment section. You can always message me on Twitter to see if, or with your guess, if you know it for sure, if you know it. However, if you don't, you can leave a guess on Twitter, on the main Twitter. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below if you're catching this on the replay. What did you think of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines? Did you like it? Did you not? Let me know all that, folks. This has been Orange Hat Reviews. Stay humble.